You're listening to the Health Coach Collective Podcast, episode 97, Affirmations Don't Work, originally published January 5th, 2022. Welcome to the Health Courage Collective Podcast, the show for women who are too busy to slog through hours of generalized, inapplicable, and often contradictory health information, but too smart to ignore that a few minutes of focused attention now can prevent years of suffering in the future. I'm your host, Christina Hackett, a pharmacist who doesn't want you to live on prescriptions, a certified coach specifically trained to maximize your potential, and a compulsive learner obsessed with preventative, cutting-edge, holistic, and integrative medicine. I'm on a mission to increase your physical and mental resilience so you can fearlessly look forward to your next 40-plus limitless years. Your time is now. Let's go. Hello, my friend, and welcome to the podcast. How is your May going? Are the flowers blooming where you are? I hope you're doing great. How's your cooking oil? I hope it's enlightening and empowering to know that you can easily control something that has very profound effects on your health. You are what you eat, and most people's cell membranes, mitochondrial membranes, skin, eyes, and brains are made of suboptimal lipids that prevent those structures from being as resilient and awesome as they could be. It's a big deal. Today, we're going to talk about affirmations. Affirmations are positive statements created to stop self-sabotaging inner dialogue. They became popular in the 1960s and still are to a certain extent. Affirmations are good in that they are a form of positive self-talk, and what we tell ourselves really does matter. We really do become what we think about and believe is possible for ourselves, for better or worse. In his book, What to Say When You Talk to Yourself, Dr. Shad Helmstetter says, every thought we think, every conscious or unconscious thought we say to ourselves is translated into electrical impulses which, in turn, direct the control centers in our brains to electrically and chemically affect and control every emotion, every feeling, every action we take, every moment of the day. Whatever thoughts you have programmed into yourself or have allowed others to program into you are affecting, directing, or controlling everything about you. Some of the programming is obvious, but much of it we are never even aware we are receiving. End quote. I think we all know this, but it's kind of wild when you really think deeply about your thoughts having a chemical impact on your biology. That thoughts are actually things, like for real. Certainly positive self-talk is better than negative self-talk. Programming ourselves to believe positive statements is a good thing to do. When I think of affirmations, I always think of the Saturday Night Live character Stuart Smalley. Remember his, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. The problem with this is that even if we repeat them over and over and over, we oftentimes still don't really believe them. Not deep down. Even if we desperately want to. The process of thinking is usually about searching for answers to questions. We don't get lost in thought repeating facts we believe. The sky is blue, children are short, plants need sunshine, murder is wrong, right? We don't need to repeat to ourselves these facts that we already believe. And repeating to ourselves statements that we don't believe to be facts doesn't really change our minds. The sky is orange, children are tall, plants don't need sunshine, murder is right. Doesn't change our mind, right? We learned from author Dan Pink that there is research to prove that interrogative self-talk is much more effective than declarative self-talk, like affirmations. So rather than saying, I rock, I'm going to crush all my goals, saying, will I rock this presentation? And do I have what it takes to reach my goals? Is more powerful. Research shows that thinking through that sliver of doubt provides you something that reaches deeper and lasts longer than just a positive statement. Interrogative self-talk. It's good stuff. Rather than just declaring something that you want to be true, when you ask yourself whether you'll actually be able to do it, it gets more real and is a little more relaxing and certainly more grounded in reality. You take a moment to think through your truth and realize That yes, in fact, I really, truly, genuinely believe I can make this happen. And why can I make it happen? Because I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. Just kidding. But only kind of, because that interrogative process helps you reveal what you truly believe about yourself and what you're capable of, and why. Never underestimate the power of a good question. I like the interrogative self-talk model and think it works well for gearing up for something you need or want to do. A project, a goal, performance, even just something on your to-do list. Asking yourself whether you will actually do it or whether you're capable of it is much better than just saying, I've got this. It's a good switch for declarative statements. But what about affirmations, the kinds you look at yourself in the mirror and say every morning while wearing your V-neck sweater and button-down shirt like Stuart Smalley does? This is where affirmations come into play. Affirmations is a concept developed by author and success coach Noah St. John. In his book called The Book of Affirmations, he describes how he had so many affirmations for so long that he religiously repeated, and his life was still a mess. One day, April 24th, 1997 to be exact, I was a junior in high school then, how about you? Anyway, that day, in the shower, he realized that it was because making a declarative statement that we don't actually believe doesn't change our way of thinking, and by proxy, our life. What does change our life is changing what we actually believe, and therefore how we unconsciously behave. This is reprogramming at a subconscious level, which is pretty cool. Questions beg to be answered. It's hard to hear a question and not try to come up with an answer to it. This is how we can lose track of time if we get lost in thought, searching for answers within ourselves. If we ask ourselves the right questions, we automatically come up with answers and simultaneously accept the truth in the question. It's brilliant. We naturally search for the evidence that what we're asking is in fact true. Can you hear the difference if you were to ask yourself, why am I good enough? Your mind starts filling in the blank. Because every human is worthy of love. Because God gave me unique gifts. Because I've worked hard to get where I am. Why am I smart enough? Because I have years of experience and I know where to look to find the answers. Why do people like me, doggone it? Because I'm humble, I'm loyal, and I don't get offended easily. Can you feel the difference there? It gets you on a good thought train, and that automatic need to answer the question presupposes that the question is true, that you are good enough, smart enough, and people like you. Obviously, because you now have all this evidence to prove that it's true. We know that the best way to get something or become someone is to act now as if that were already true. Act as if you already had that thing or were that person. But it's hard to do if you're coming from a desperate, graspy kind of scarcity mentality. Declaring, I'm a healthy person, is very different than having your brain automatically come up with examples of healthy behaviors you already engage in. Evidence that you already make healthy decisions. A subconscious landscape for making healthy choices because you are a healthy person. The circumstances are the same, but in the second scenario, you have evidence for your new desired identity, so you automatically act as if that were true. And so it is. Noah St. John talks about what he calls the belief gap. We have our current perceived reality and our new desired reality, and between them is the belief gap. That gap can be tiny or huge, depending on how hard you believe it is to create your new desired reality. You might think it's really easy to lose 20 pounds of fat and gain 5 pounds of muscle, but really hard to train your tranquility to the point where you can keep your mind from getting frazzled, angry, or overwhelmed. Or vice versa. So our perception is our reality, right? Whatever your perception and therefore your belief gap, the way to bridge that gap is to start solving for the problems that create the gap in the first place. He says that every problem is simply a question that hasn't been answered yet. So all we need to do is start asking the right questions. It really is pretty simple. Maybe not easy, but simple. Most of us go through life asking the wrong questions without realizing it. Disempowering questions focus on what we don't have. Why can't I do anything right? Why is eating healthy so hard? Why can she lose fat and gain muscle, but I can't? Why am I so out of shape? Why do I never get a lucky break? Why am I cursed with bad genes? Can you see how asking these questions doesn't feel good? Your brain starts to answer them, and worse yet, to believe that they are reflective of the truth, that they are based in facts. But they're not. Affirmations are empowering questions, and it's really easy to just flip the script and change those disempowering questions into affirmations. Why can't I do anything right could change to, why do I consistently make good decisions? Why is eating healthy so hard could flip to, why is it so easy for me to prepare healthy and pleasurable food? Why am I so out of shape could switch to, why do I enjoy moving my body so much? Pretty simple, right? I invite you to take a minute and think through what disempowering questions you might be asking yourself regularly. You might not have even noticed before that you've been doing this to yourself. And as Stuart Smalley would say, and that's okay. But no, it really is okay, and you're in very good company. Most people think this way. But a good way to not be normal is to notice those disempowering questions and harness the power of flipping them upside down. Empowering questions focus your mind on what you do have, what you can do, and who you really are. Do you remember when we talked about which one is the alter ego, Superman or Clark Kent? The real you is awesome, and she's already in there waiting to come out a little more often. Empowering questions unleash your ability to take action and express who you really are, that true and super version of you. That's acting from your future self, which is what we want to do. Psychiatry professor Dr. Daniel Siegel says, quote, how we focus our attention changes the structure of the brain. One of the key practical lessons of modern neuroscience is that the power to direct our attention has within it the power to shape our brain's firing patterns, as well as the power to shape the architecture of the brain itself. End quote. I always think it's so cool that we can change the physical structure of our brain for the better, just by doing mental reps, if you will. Affirmations are some high leverage reps to bang out in your mental gym. Noah St. John says that the quality of your life depends on just two things: the quality of your communication with the world inside you, and the quality of your communication with the world outside you. What do you think about that? Noah St. John named his empowering questions affirmations because affirmation comes from the Latin word to make firm, but what we really want is to form our habits and form who we are. We want to use our mind to form the life we want rather than to firm up the one that we don't. The 4 steps of the affirmation method are to 1. Ask yourself what you want, 2. Form a new question that assumes that what you want is already true, 3. Accept the truth of your new question, and 4. Take new actions based on your new assumptions about life. Pretty simple, right? There are more in-depth trainings you can purchase from his company, which I haven't done, but I like the idea, and it makes sense to me that you're using affirmations whether you realize it or not. For better or worse, your brain finds answers to the questions you ask, so you might as well purposefully craft some powerful questions to ask yourself. Affirmations all start with the word why. If you're interested in learning more, I would encourage you to get the Book of Affirmations, and go through his process. It's pretty quick and easy. When I first heard of affirmations a little over a year and a half ago, I thought that I could probably come up with some for myself, so I sat down to type out a few. 7 pages later, I felt like I had pretty well covered it all. It wasn't hard or time-consuming. Then I recorded each page of questions as a voice memo on my phone, one for each day of the week, so I have 7 voice files named Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And every morning when I'm getting ready, I listen to myself reading my affirmations for the day. It's been really simple and easy to stick with, and I've liked it so much that I actually re-recorded them all after a few weeks to slow them down so I have time to think between each question. Some days I pay more attention to them than others, and I think that's okay. Sometimes I feel like I'm being interviewed on a talk show, and I really do try to come up with good answers. And other days, I just kind of listen. I feel like it's worthy of my time either way. Okay, now it's your turn. What affirmations can you come up with based on what you want? They'll be questions that start with why and assume that what you want is already true. You can read them, write them, say them, or listen to them. You can pick one a day or do several. It's really up to you. I'll put some links in the show notes to some of Noah St. John's resources where you can go buy his products and dive deeper if you're interested. I think it's really valuable to come up with your own personal questions that are unique to you. Some examples are, why do I love my body? Why am I so lucky to have inherited the genes I have? Why do I have unstoppable energy? Why is it so easy for me to sleep soundly every night? Why are my hormones in optimal balance? And why is it so easy for me to turn my health challenges into strengths? I know you're busy, so while you're coming up with your list, you can download a free MP3 of some of the empowering questions I've come up with for you. It's not the affirmation method, you can only get that from Noah St. John, but it's a few questions that I've come up with to help get you started for free. You can download your free audio file at the link I'll put in the show notes. It's at healthcourage.ck.page/questions. No www, just healthcourage.ck.page/questions. But again, I'll put a link in the show notes to make it easy. Whether you write your own, download mine, or even just mentally catch yourself in the act of asking disempowering questions and then flip them into empowering ones, it's not enough just to ask yourself the right questions. Sorry. It's fabulous. It's one of the best things we can do to reprogram our subconscious for success. It's way better than affirmations. But it doesn't work if you keep repeating self-defeating actions. You can't magic your way out of self-destructive behavior. Affirmations try to trick your mind, which doesn't work. Affirmations work with your mind and use its automatic search function to help you instinctively create the results you want. But you still have to do the work. For each affirmation you come up with, a good thing to do is to list 3 simple actions you could take today that would make it true. Then take one of those actions, no matter how small, and keep taking action. We'll talk more in the future about how our feelings often follow our actions. We can change how we feel and what we believe about ourselves with how we act. Thank you for being here today. I hope you had a great start to your new year and that using empowering questions that change your assumptions about yourself will give you more progress than using affirmations has in the past. Remember, you can download a free set of empowering questions if you want to at the link I'll put in the show notes. As you harness the power of interrogative self-talk, remember that you're good enough, you're smart enough, and doggone it, people like you. Next week, we're going to talk about whether your probiotics are good enough. Until then, ask yourself the right questions and don't be normal. Thank you so much for tuning into the Health Courage Collective podcast. I am truly honored that you have paid me the enormous compliment of your time and attention. I would be so grateful if you would share this podcast with someone you know and subscribe so you never miss an episode. This podcast is for entertainment and information purposes only. Statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Christina Hackett and producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse events by use of information contained herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.